Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's always an honor and a privilege to be able to rise in the House of Commons and speak on behalf of the great people of Southwest and West Central Saskatchewan. And before I begin, I'd just like to give a quick happy birthday shout out to the member from Caribou, Prince George.
Here, here.
It's a wonderful member in this house.
Here, here.
And there's lots of family ties from people in Southwest Saskatchewan to people up in his part of BC as well too. I know there's a flow of people that way, so happy birthday to him. He's a great member.
Here, here.
Before I really get into the substance of my speech, Mr. Speaker, I think it's really important when we talk about anything that has to deal with the state of the economy in Canada, we should really point out to what the total number of debt is in Canada. Right now, Canada's federal debt, $1,276,208,891,892,893,000, and I can't even read hundreds in the sense, it's going way too fast. Each and every person in this House of Commons right now, your share, and to every single Canadian out there, your share of the federal debt is $30,457. The growth per day in Canada's debt, without the government introducing any new spending, $109,863,013.70. Wow. Every single day without the government doing anything. So imagine when they start pouring more inflationary spending on the fire, how that number is going to be impacted and how it's going to be changed. And really, Mr. Speaker, those numbers are the numbers that every single member in this House should be paying more attention to, because if they did, then they would understand, and particularly on the government side, because on this side, we pay attention to those numbers a lot. The government needs to pay attention to those numbers, because I think then they would finally start to understand why it is that we talk so much about the negative impact that we're having on the economy with the way that the Liberals have been steering things. I just want to give people a little bit of a history lesson. I'm from Saskatchewan, born and raised, grew up on a farm outside of a small town. The prairie economy back in the day, it was based on I got a couple things. The most common thing was the rail line, right? And when you look at where all the different communities are across Southwest and West Central Saskatchewan, it's generally in relation with either the current national rail line, but also a lot of the offshoot rail lines that are there. There are some rail lines that are no longer in existence that have been removed, but you can see the communities that used to exist along those rail lines. Some of those communities, unfortunately, have vanished or are vanishing because of the state of the economy. But the reason why I bring this up, Mr. Speaker, is there used to be, out in the prairies in particular, very individual, localized economies. So when we look at jobs, we look at the job numbers, 86,000 jobs lost in Canada recently underneath this Prime Minister. And when you look at these small local economies, they used to provide a lot of jobs. So let's talk about, in just about every single small town along the rail line, you would have, farming was obviously the driver of that local economy. But within that local siloed economy, you had your farmers, then you had a blacksmith, then you had one, sometimes two or three equipment dealers selling farm implements. Then you had a couple different auto dealers there as well too, selling cars and trucks and whatnot. Then you also had your schools, you had your hospitals, and you really had a heavy focus on your local economy there. So there was always lots of jobs for folks in these small towns. As we fast forward with the way that our rural communities have been decimated, Mr. Speaker, when you look on Google Maps and you zoom in and you look at the roads, and it's true of many members that are here in the House here, from Saskatchewan, from Alberta, from all across the country, actually, you zoom in on the map. In my riding in particular, I've got well over 100 communities, and several of them are small in size for sure, but they're just as important nonetheless as any of the larger communities, the city of Swift Current, and even when you look nationally as some of the large cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. These small towns are extremely important. And why is that? Well, for starters, agriculture is it's 1 in 8 jobs in the national economy, but when you start breaking it down within the various portions of agriculture, the canola industry, for example, is bigger. It impacts GDP more to the Canadian economy than the auto industry does, for example. So that's how big and important the agriculture sector, and even just the canola industry, let alone the entire agriculture sector, is to the prairie economy. So I want people to just know that off the top here. Which then gets into some of the current Liberal policies that are driving the cost of living crisis, which are chasing jobs out of Canada. We've got things like the industrial carbon tax. We've got incoming Liberal fuel standards that are a second carbon tax as well. We've got the emissions cap. Everybody knows about the Failed Impact Assessment Act, the tanker ban, all of these things. And these all are largely detrimental policies for rural Canada, but they have a trickle impact into urban Canada, Mr. Speaker, because everything that exists in urban Canada originated from rural Canada first and foremost, whether it's the food, whether it's your building materials, whether it's the energy that's used to heat and cool our homes. It all originated in rural Canada. It's important for people to know and understand that in this House. I don't think that Western Canada, particularly my riding, when you look at the way that it was built, the way that it was settled, it would have been done the way that it was. If the Liberals would have had the same type of laws that we see here today with the industrial carbon tax and things like that I listed earlier. Mr. Speaker, before we came back from summer break, I just want to share a quick story here. I met with some seniors, and he's 90, she's 80. He's a retired farmer. She worked in the service industry most of her life, and you never know it by looking at them. They don't look a day over 60. It's quite remarkable. People who work hard, they live long and prosperous lives, but they're gotten to a point in their life where they're just not able to find work, or no one's going to hire them. But when you're 90 and when you're 80, you shouldn't be thinking, how am I going to work to put food on the table? They live on, they have a fixed income. And they're at a point in their life where they had to get a mortgage out on the house that they have just to be able to afford basic necessities in life. So when I went and met with them, Mr. Speaker, they hadn't ran their air conditioning all summer. They didn't have any lights on in their house. They told me that they're not going to turn the furnace on until they absolutely have to. They hadn't eaten beef, and they didn't even know how long it had been since they've been able to go out and buy a roast, some steaks, things like that. They talked to me about how their diet, the food that they're eating, is perilous. It's going down the drain. It's actually leading to bad health outcomes for them because, again, they're 90 and they're 80. She's doing everything she can to make home-cooked meals with the limited resources that she had. When you look at the cost of groceries, it's gotten out of hand to the point that I made about them not being able to even afford a roast anymore. She's really struggling to make things go. When I was there, she had loaves of bread set out that she had made because somebody had given her the raw products needed to mill her own homemade bread. And so that's a staple in their diet, which, I mean, it's homemade, so that's good. But the same breath, Mr. Speaker, when they go out with $100 to the grocery store for two people, like, that should look, $100 at the grocery store should be able to get them through a week, into a second week, no problem. But it doesn't. Mm-hmm. It barely gets you through a couple of days. And their budget only goes so far. At the age that they're at, they have medications that they have to buy. They still have a vehicle that they don't drive because they can't afford to put gas in it. They can't do the things that most people when they retire do with their grandkids, for example. They can't take them on trips. They can't be taking them to the hockey rink. They can't take them for supper, things like that. It's hard for them to be able to do that because, quite frankly, they literally can't afford it. And this is a farmer who's worked hard his entire life. He's a very, very, very proud man. This lady, she worked in the service industry, helping seniors, helping people. She also worked with adults with disabilities. One of the most noble things that you can do. And now they can't even hardly afford to feed themselves. And when we see bad Liberal policies, that's why we have this motion in front of us here today, to get the government to focus on Canadians. We're not seeing it. We heard the Prime Minister today talk about $1 trillion being invested if he gets the right deal in the United States. And he's saying, oh, it's private money. That's the whole point. Private sector, private companies should be investing in Canada, and the Prime Minister's goal should be to get that investment in Canada to fix our economy, to get jobs, so that people like this family here, the cost of living won't impact them the way that it has been. It's embarrassing. The government needs to reverse course, and they should adopt our motion.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would also like to say happy birthday to someone. The member for Labrador, happy birthday. What a great place to celebrate your birthday. I listened to my colleague's speech with great interest. I was very moved by this story of difficulty facing seniors. At least these seniors do have dental care now, so at least they're getting some assistance. My question is as follows. Do you think that the trade war with the United States and overall trade changes on the world stage represent an economic emergency for Canadian farmers and workers?
Go to 45 seconds.
Well, it absolutely is creating an emergency for Canadian workers because we lost 86,000 jobs over the last little while. The Prime Minister just again was openly bragging about sending $1 trillion if he gets the deal that he expects into the United States. That investment needs to be in Canada. We're not hearing if it's been reciprocated into Canada. We need that investment in Canada, not the U.S.
We have time for a 15-second question. I'll member for Regina Louvain.
Absolutely. Thank you to my friend from Swift Creek Kids League Grasslands for his speech. We saw him talk about constituents. We saw the Deputy House Leader talk about how they want to protect the Liberal government. When they talk about failed Liberal policies, when we talk about the failed Liberal policies. And Liberals are not Canada. Do you agree with that?
The honourable member in 10 seconds or less.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. The Liberals are not the entire representation of Canada. So we need to make sure that when we bring up these stories, the Liberals need to listen to us and understand the pain that people are feeling because of their bad policies and have the humility to do what's right.